Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reading from Disney Scary Storybook Collection. Today we're going to be reading from Disney's Beauty and the Beast called Belle's Mysterious Message. Night had fallen on the Beast's castle, but Belle could not sleep. Her new home still felt strange and lonely, and she couldn't stop thinking about her father. She hoped he had made it safely back to the village. "Lumiere," Belle said, "do you think I could read for a little while? Perhaps it would help me fall asleep." "But of course, mademoiselle," the candlestick replied. Smiling, Belle picked up Lumiere, and the two headed to the castle's large library. Soon Belle had a tall stack of books. She began to make her way across the polished floor when, crash! Books went flying in every direction. Belle knelt down to retrieve a book that had slid underneath the bookshelf. "I think there's something else under here," she said, pulling out a dusty old book. "Look, this has definitely been under there for quite some time." Belle added the book to her pile and carefully headed upstairs. The hallway was dark and spooky, but with a cheerful Lumiere as her guide, Belle was soon back in her room. Settling into bed, Belle picked up the mysterious book and began to read. The story was about a knight and a beautiful princess whose kingdom was being terrorized by a dragon. Bravely, the knight rode out to defeat the evil dragon. Belle eagerly turned the pages, but when she reached the end of the book, she found a surprise. "The last chapter is missing," she cried, showing Lumiere. "Perhaps the pages fell out under the bookshelf." "We will have to look tomorrow," Lumiere replied. The next morning, when Cogsworth came to fetch Belle for breakfast, she asked him about the book. When the master was a boy, his tutor made him read this book, Cogsworth said with a smile. But alas, the master was a little short-tempered. He threw the book and the pages fell out. As Cogsworth flipped fondly through the pages of the book, a small slip of paper fell out. "A note!" Belle exclaimed. Belle opened the note. "Young master," she read, "destroying books in fits of rage will not be tolerated. If you want the final chapter back, you must find it. This is your first clue, Monsieur Lebeau." Belle flipped over the note. "To find this clue, you'll be hard to put. On a gray, dark night, it's underfoot." Cogsworth started to pace back and forth. "We need to think of something that would be under your feet on a dark night," he said. "Any suggestions?" The three friends looked at each other. Finding the last chapter of the book wasn't going to be easy. That afternoon, Belle and her new friends searched the castle from top to bottom. As they entered the Hall of Armor, Belle sighed. "Will we ever find something that's underfoot on a dark gray night?" Suddenly, they heard a tiny voice echo through the long hallway. "Hey, these nights look pretty gray." Startled by the sudden noise, Cogsworth jumped into Lumiere's arms. "Chimp, you scared us," Belle laughed. "But you might be right. Maybe the clue was talking about a gray night." Belle looked underneath one of the feet of the suit of armor. Sure enough, there was another clue. "It's big, it's grand, and it's for all to see. You'll find it under number 73, Belle read. "Grand? Grand? Why, that must be the grand piano," Cogsworth said. The friends hurried to the music room, but there was nothing hidden inside the piano. Cogsworth paced back and forth, thinking hard. "This is more difficult than I thought," he said. "Stop pacing, Cogsworth," Lumiere cried. "You're making me nervous." Cogsworth glared at the candlestick. "What else is grand around here?" he asked. "Everything," Belle thought. "The grand staircase alone is bigger than—" "That's it!" she shouted, running out of the room. Belle's friends followed her to the grand staircase. "Under number 73? Cogsworth said thoughtfully. The friends counted the steps. Finally, under the 73rd step, they found clue number 3. The next clue? It's found within two brothers who were very grim. Belle thought hard. The clue sounded so familiar to her. Two brothers who were very grim. "The Grimm's brothers!" she exclaimed. Cogsworth and Lumiere looked at Belle in confusion. "The Grimm's brothers were two brothers who collected and wrote fairy tales," she explained. "To the library." "Where is this fairy tale section?" Chip asked as they entered the library. "It's up there, on the highest shelf," Belle said, pointing. Everyone watched in disbelief as Belle began to climb. "Please be careful," Cogsworth said nervously. At the very top of the bookshelf, Belle found the Grimm's brothers book. She tucked it into her apron and descended the ladder. Back on solid ground, Belle held the book upside down and shook it. "Nothing," she said sadly. "The clue is right here," Chip said, pointing into a piece of paper. "It must have fallen out while you were climbing down." Belle smiled and picked up the paper. "Final clue. You're almost home. You'll find it underneath the gnome, she read. What's a gnome? Chip asked. Gnomes are tiny creatures with long white beards and pointy hats, Belle exclaimed. Any ideas, Cogsworth? Lumiere asked. That does sound kind of familiar, Cogsworth replied. I remember the young master talking about a gnome. Or was it an elf? He sighed. It was so long before, it was hard to remember. Belle turned to the others. We need to ask Beast, she said. Belle marched upstairs to the Beast's study. She knocked loudly, but there was no answer. Opening the door, she peered inside. The Beast turned to her angrily. So you don't show up for breakfast, and then you trespass? He growled. I'm sorry, she said. But the Beast was not in the mood to listen. Throwing open his door, he raced down the stairs past the others. But we found a note from Monsieur Lebeau, Belle cried after him. We need your help. Belle's friend shuffled into the room to comfort her. I know I came in uninvited, she said, but he didn't need to be such a beast. I know, a deep voice said. It was Beast. I was very rude, and I apologize. Did I hear you say something about my old tutor? Belle handed the book to the Beast. My book, he exclaimed. Monsieur Lebeau left you a series of clues that lead to the missing chapter, Belle told him. He knew I didn't like to study, the Beast said. I used to hide in the garden next to a gnome-shaped rock. Did you say gnome? Belle asked eagerly. The Beast led everyone outside to the garden. There he is, the Beast said, pointing to a rock that resembled a gnome with a pointy hat. Belle watched as the Beast began digging in the earth. A few moments later, he pulled a rusted tin box from the ground. Inside was the missing chapter and a note. Young Master, good work. We may have our differences, but I can see in you the fine man you will become. Your humble tutor, Monsieur Lebeau. The Beast handed the chapter to Belle. Would you? He asked shyly. Belle smiled and took the pages, and as her friends gathered around her, she began to read the last chapter of the book. Looking at Belle, the Beast sighed happily. He had been waiting many years to find out how the story ended. Perhaps, he thought, this would be just the first of many happy endings. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time. Have a spectacular night. Good night.